We're just 5 days away from the start of hurricane season, and now is the time to start getting yourself prepared. And all week we've been going parish by parish to tell you what emergency managers are doing to get ready. And this morning, Scott Whelchel, head of the EOC for St. Charles Parish, joins us. And before we get into some of the levee talk we were just discussing before, you want to urge St. Charles Parish residents to get ready now.
Absolutely. Even with the severe weather we had last night and weeks ago, there's no better time than now to get prepared for storm season, hurricane season, or any other catastrophe that might impact our residents. And we want them to go to getagameplan.org because they have a fabulous website that the state has produced to get your family ready, your business ready, and any other preparations that you need to make. And
that website is kind of sponsored by the state. Is there kind of parish-specific information there, or is it just kind of good general guidelines for everyone?
It's excellent general guidelines for anybody to get prepared, not just for hurricane season. Again, it's an all-hazards approach to being prepared. The parish does have its own website, too, that talks specifically about vulnerabilities in St. Charles Parish as well, so we'd encourage our residents to go to that website.
And drainage is a big issue everywhere. And has there been any improvements to that in the parish?
Absolutely. You know, we have over 3.5 million gallon per minute pumping capacity in St. Charles Parish, but you have to get that water to the pump station to realize that benefit. So what our Public Works Department has done, they've cleaned over 34 miles of canals and over 200,000 feet of ditches and culverts to make sure that we can get the conveyance of the water to the place where the pumps can get the water out of harm's way.
And now you're talking about water, you know, keeping or getting the water out, but you also want to keep the water out. And there is a vulnerable spot you were showing me on this map here, and I'll hold it up if you want to kind of point out some of the spots. And, oh, actually, we do have it up on screen there.
Okay.
And the vulnerable spot between the Jefferson levee and the Lafourche levee. Talk a little bit about that.
That's correct. You know, our West Bank has over 30,000 residents that work at critical infrastructure that services the needs of not just the Louisiana residents, but the United States. And this vulnerability is a vulnerability for those residents and many of the chemical plants and other plants and refineries that the U.S. needs to operate. And with 80% of those people at 5 feet or lower in elevation on our West Bank, this is a huge vulnerability for us and the state and the United States.
Now, this would be, you know, a storm coming in, say, a little bit more to the west of St. Charles Parish, sending that surge up through, as you were saying, Lake Salvador, and then eventually into Davis Pond, and then basically just kind of funneling that straight into the West Bank of St. Charles Parish.
That's true. It's almost like a revisit of the Mr. Go situation because you have levees on one side and levees on the other with a big gap, and it would just channel that water right into our most vulnerable area. We've been fortunate. We've visited with Senator David Vitter, Congressman Cassidy, and Congressman Alexander last week to show them this vulnerability. And we're fortunate again to have Senator Mary Landrieu visiting us today, that we're going to show her the opportunity really that we have to shore up a vulnerability that impacts not just St. Charles Parish, but Louisiana and ultimately areas of the U.S. in a huge way.
So other than the gap in the levee there on the West Bank, how are the other levee systems in St. Charles?
Well, as you well know, and we talked about, our Mississippi River levees have been tested to the extreme this season, and they've held up very well. Really a testament to the Corps of Engineers and our Lafourche and Pontchartrain levee district presidents and their work that they've done. So we've been very fortunate. Those hot spots that the Corps has found have not been in St. Charles Parish, and we're very pleased to have that reality.
And real quick, one more time, where can people go to get information about preparing for hurricane season?
www.getagameplan.org.
And then there's also a website for St. Charles Parish specifically.
Absolutely.
All right, Scott Whelchel, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and good luck for this hurricane season.
Appreciate it.
Nothing needs to be tested.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go with that.
Yeah, that's right. And one more quiet season, or a few more quiet seasons. And we want to remind everyone to tune in next Tuesday night for our 1-hour hurricane special, Weathering the Storm. Our Fox 8 weather team will bring you everything you need to know about the approaching season. Watch Weathering the Storm next Tuesday at 7 right here on Fox 8. Stay